Hey you geeks! It's been a hot minute since I've talked about anime on this channel. This is because I'm not looking to just talk about entertaining tales, but those that span cultural divides by reaching towards truth, beauty, and goodness in a way that I can really understand. Stories, as Hayao Miyazaki puts it, which give room to the reality of the heart, of the mind, and of the imagination. Miyazaki's Howl's Moving Castle does this by adapting the YA novel by Diana Wynne Jones of the same name. It is a beautifully stunning, adventurous romp which I truly love.
Here's another curse. May all your bacon burn.
It's also the perfect opportunity to explore how stories evolve, or should I say revolve, over time. How, in this case, the British myths became fairy tales, which were recycled by Diana Wynne Jones in her novel, that then were recycled by Miyazaki, who, upon injecting contemporary concerns of pacifism, ended up with a story that is almost a retelling of the medieval Beauty Sweeney. Beauty Sweeney, or Sweeney Astray, is a tale about a mad Sweeney.
There's the one staying put in his proper place, and the one with his foot in the other one's face. Look at
who is not a barber. Rather, he is a man who was cursed to go mad on the battlefield and fly away like a bird. Neither Jones nor Miyazaki has cited this story as inspiration. Therefore, it's incredible to me how much these stories overlap, and it's driving me insane. So, this list of 10 things no one says is going to be a little different. Rather than my usual 10 random observations I haven't heard before, I'm tailoring this list to the 10 ways in which Howl's Moving Castle, a 2005 anime Japanese film, could almost be an adaptation of a medieval Irish poem. 1. The War. I'll admit the first thing most people say about Howl's Moving Castle as an adaptation is that Miyazaki added a war. Although Miyazaki is widely known for incorporating myths into his stories, this concern did not seem to come from myth, but rather his contemporary concerns about pacifism. Miyazaki's vexation about the invasion of Iraq and resultant bloodshed is in fact palpable in Howl's Moving Castle.
It's difficult. Difficult. Lemon difficult.
Rather, just by merely adding war to Jones's novel, he drags the tale closer to the realm of Sweeney Astray. Sweeney Astray begins with the battle at Moria.
Moria, you fear to go into those mines.
Where the blessed Ronin Finn curses Sweeney with these words. That bell which thou hast wounded will send thee among branches, so that thou shalt be one with the birds. Even as in an instant when the spear shaft on high, mayst go thou, O Sweeney, in madness without respite. Whether this is a blessing or a curse on Sweeney is really a matter of perspective, and Sweeney's perspective changes rapidly since he is mad. Sweeney is also said to have sprouted feathers and flew away, which brings us to number 2, flying. According to book canon, both Howl and Sophie hate flying. No, Howl cried from inside. I'm not going on that. Why do you think I fell off it before? I hate heights. I hate heights, Sophie said. It had better not be far. This excellent carpet will carry us with all possible speed, worshipful witch. In the movie, going flying is the first thing Howl and Sophie do together.
Come on.
This sequence is thoroughly delightful, and I'm not complaining about book accuracy in any way. Rather, this change is just another example of how Miyazaki's original editions bring it closer to the realm of Sweebney and his flight with the Hag of the Mill. Sweeney leapt a leap or two for the sake of the Heavenly Father himself. The hag at her house said that even so could she herself leap. Once more Sweeney leapt out over the top of the fortress. Swifter than smoke through a house was the flight of the hag. Both Howl's Moving Castle and the Madness of Sweebney have what we would call soft magic systems. They are in the realm of fairy tale, where curses are only explained insofar as they are relevant to the plot.
You shouldn't keep flying around like that. Soon you won't be able to turn back into a human.
Whereas other seemingly supernatural occurrences are unexplained. Howl is a bird, shadows make people crazy, and the sun also rises. This is the realm of fairy tales. Number 3. Furry. Let's turn our attention back to the novel by Diana Wynne Jones, where she makes it very clear that the rules of fairy tales seem to apply in her world. In the land of Ingery, where such things as 7-league boots and cloaks of invisibility really exist, it is quite a misfortune to be born the eldest of 3. Everyone knows you are the one who will fail first, and worst, if the 3 of you set out to seek your fortunes. Jones exploits or subverts these tropes for her own plot. Sophie, as the eldest, feels destined to fail, whereas she merrily sets her youngest sister, Martha, out to be a sorceress because she is most likely to succeed. Her middle sister, Letty, is set up in a bake shop where she is most likely to find a husband, as she is the sister with middling success.
Honestly, Jacqueline, the horse is one of God's noblest creatures.
Oh, well, why don't I just pull the carriage while I'm at it?
If you think it'll get us there any faster.
However, Sophie's sisters switch places, refusing to accept their fate and rather do what they want. Martha, unsurprisingly given her name, wants a hearth and home, while Letty, also unsurprisingly given her name, wants to run free. Letty comes from the Greek for Aletha, meaning footloose. This somewhat overlaps with Sweeney, as Sweeney's foster brother, Lon Sonchan, tries 3 times to subvert the fate that Ronan had prescribed for the madman. However, Sweeney is unsuccessful with outrunning his fate, and Sophie has middling success in outrunning her position as the number 4 crone. Sophie means wisdom in Greek, a trait that is often associated with old women, also known as crones, a name that Sophie in Jones' book calls herself. Sophie discovered that being a crone did not stop her from enjoying the sight and smell of May in the hedgerows, though her sight was a little blurred. She cackled again as she walked on. Perhaps she was a little mad, but old women often were. Crones are often associated with crows, which is fitting for the scarecrow to, in Jones's book, give her almost a heart attack. Miyazaki downplays Sophie's fright and has them becoming fast friends.
It's been a pleasure meeting you, even if you are my least favorite vegetable.
Yet Miyazaki's Sophie gives off other crone vibes. Howl's Moving Castle now looks more like Baba Yaga's hut, and Sophie sometimes looks exactly like Miyazaki's own Yubaba, a woman who turns into a crow in Spirited Away.
Your mama says he's coming. Yo, ma, dear.
Crones are old maternal figures, and both book and film has Sophie masquerading sometimes as Howl's mother.
I got it! Why don't you go to the palace for me?
Huh?
Just say that you're Pendragon's mother.
which is where we get into Mad Sweeney territory. For Sweeney's foster brother's mother-in-law is known as the hag of the mill.
Why, I'm his third cousin's brother's wife's step-niece's great aunt. Twice removed.
While Sweeney is out running mad in the first part of his tale, she leaves food out for him. And then when Sweeney is tricked into sanity, she persuades him to go running wild again, and even runs a bit with him. O hag of yonder mill, why shouldst thou lead me astray? Is it not deceitful of thee that through women I should be betrayed and lured? The hag. 'Tis not I who betrayed thee, O Sweeney, though fair thy fame, but the miracles of Ronan from heaven which drove thee to madness among mad men. In persuading Sweeney to jump and fly again, she allows him to do what he secretly seems to long for, that which God had destined him to do.
Oh, look, the point is, the birds, they do all right, don't they?
Well, good luck to them. Yeah, they're very pretty.
Okay.
Likewise, Sophie encourages Howl to fly free, or, number 5, to wander. All 3 stories are tales of wandering men, so much so it's in their titles. Howl's Moving Castle and Sweeney Astray. To a certain extent, both Howl and Sweeney long to be unbound from society. Howl looked over his shoulder at the barely smoking logs again. I must say, if I think of the king and the witch both after me, I get a craving for planting the castle on a nice, frowning rock 1,000 miles away. Or, as Sweeney confesses, if I were to see the men of the world coming to me, O man of the bell, I would flee from them as fast as the flight of a wren.
It's our problem-free philosophy.
And yet they keep moving from place to place, for nowhere they can find is perfect. As Sweeney tries to sleep in the wilderness on a hawthorn bush without much success. The brown thorn bush has nigh caused my death. The Battle of Congal with fame, to us it was doubly piteous. On Tuesday was the rout. More numerous were our dead than our living. A wandering in truth. Though I was noble and gentle, I have been sad and wretched a year to the last night. Thus Sweeney, like Miyazaki's Howl, wanders not just for restlessness' sake, but because he is haunted by war and violence, which causes him to flee, or in some cases, express his feelings with green slime.
I give up. I see no point in living if I can't be beautiful.
Yet Howl has a sort of different wandering, since he cannot go anywhere without hearth and home, lest he die. This is how Jones is able to write a fantasy book more focused on house cleaning and domestic life than Ye Typical Adventure, while Miyazaki's film focuses a lot more on, number 6, nature. Miyazaki, in true Studio Ghibli fashion, injects a lot of scenery and nature into Howl's Moving Castle.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's called Star Lake.
How neat is that?
Jones's novel is already partially set out wandering the moors and the marshes of Ingary, so it's hardly stale and urban. The marshes smelt of salt and earth. The sea glittered softly and swished to the rear. Sophie could feel, more than see, the miles and miles of flatness stretching away in front of them. However, Miyazaki adds nature to everything. Scenes that had formerly been set around the hearth and Calcifer are now set outside within nature, which pushes Howl's story to be that much closer to Sweeney's. Sweeney, who purports to love the wilderness and wandering. Happy Glen Bulkane, fronting the wind, around which madmen of the glen call, woe is me, I sleep not there. Some readers see Sweeney as a purely pastoral tale, singing the praises of nature and spurning the life of the civilized. He is further spurned to move by his memories of war and fear of bloodshed being renewed. This also drives Howl in Miyazaki's movie, allowing both men to wander seemingly aimlessly and yet coming full circle. Number 7, The Mill. As established above, in Sweeney Astray, the crone or Sophie analog character is called the Hag of the Mill, and she is crucial in helping release Sweeney from the constraints of civilization and letting him fly free. Sophie, however, is not a miller. She has another profession, one that is also not associated with sanity, as the book points out. We can't all be Mad Hatters, said Howl.
Why is a raven like a writing desk?
Why the what?
Careful, she's stark raven mad.
But do you know what another word for hatter is? Take your guesses down in the comments. I do want your feedback. Another word for hatter is milliner.
The 60s weren't good to you, were they?
Thus, in both versions, Howl and Sophie's stories revolve around a milliner shop. Sophie begins her story there, and then Howl in the end brings her back. Miyazaki takes it a step further by putting a literal mill wheel in the magical glen of flowers.
We're captive on a carousel of time.
Just as Sweeney's tale is circular, revolving for a time around the mill as a place where they all just keep going back to, in part through acts of, number 8, trickery. All three tales compare a life of shiftless wandering with that of duplicity and trickery of polite society. Jones is more subtle and subversive, as it is not the king who is lying through his teeth, but rather Howl, the shiftless wanderer. The wizard agreed to look for my brother so readily that I thought I had picked the wrong man after all. I feared he was someone who was either unable to resist showing off or would do anything for money. But you have shown me he is just the man I need. Oh, confound it, Sophie cried out. He sent me to tell you he wasn't. While Miyazaki's tale is closer to Sweeney in having a very cruel and cunning court.
That is enough! Now I understand why Howl was so concerned about coming to see you. It's a trap!
Likewise, in Sweeney, Lon Sanchan is considered civilized for tricking Sweeney by telling him that all of his family are super dead. When Sweeney heard tidings of his only son's death, he fell from the yew, whereupon Lon Sanchan closed his arms around him and put manacles on him. He then told him that all of his people lived. Thus, Sweeney fell for Lon Sanchan's deceitful yet civilizing tactics of threats to his family, just as Book Howl fell for the Witch of the Waste's threats on his family. Howl, Calcifer roared, the witch has found your sister's family. There were 2 violent thumps overhead. Howl's bedroom door crashed, and Howl came tearing downstairs. Got me on my weak flank! Blast her! He shouted as he shot across the room, but in the end it's just a feint, leaving the crones of their stories to reveal the truth and find what Wynne can advance an honest mind.
And they call the wind Mariah.
Number 9. The Curse. In Jones's book, the curse is literally pulled in from our real world and is a poem, Go and catch a falling star. Get with child a mandrake root. Tell me where all your past years are, or who cleft the devil's foot. Teach me to hear mermaids singing, or keep off envy's stinging, and find what wind serves to advance an honest mind.
The wheel weaves as the wheel wills.
Though when thou returnest with, tell me all strange wonders that befell thee, and swear nowhere lives a woman true and fair. There's something about poets from the British Isles listing a list of impossible tasks, all in the name of love, or lack thereof.
He once was a true love of mine.
Sweeney is an Irish poem which is rather dour on love and the likes of women. Woe to those who strike women's fancy, however excellent therefore. Since Sweeney Gelt has got no sympathy from his first love, and woe to him who trusts in woman, by day or by night. Miyazaki cuts out all the poetry and self-pitying, giving the curse a much more straightforward analysis.
You who swallowed a falling star, O heartless man, your heart shall soon belong to me. It can't be good for the table.
And yet by backing out of the poetic interpretation, he backs into yet another literal interpretation of Sweeney's curse. Sweeney's fingers were palsied, his feet trembled, his heart beat quick, his senses were overcome, his sight was distorted, his weapons fell naked from his hands, so that through Ronan's curse he went, like any bird of the air, in madness and imbecility. Sweeney's curse, however, does not come from Howl's ardent pacifism. Rather, quite the opposite, which brings us to where all these comparisons fall apart. Number 10, stark, raving sanity. Despite all the listed similarities above, there is one key element that is a crucial difference between the two. Howl has lost his heart.
Then one day his heart was stolen by a demon.
While Sweeney has lost his mind.
Life would be a ding-a-dairy if I only had a brain.
As you can see, Miyazaki's addition of Howl as a raging birdman monster pushes it closer to Sweeney's, but also further away. Howl didn't want to come to the castle because he did not want to fight, whereas Sweeney got cursed because he couldn't stop fighting. Every peace and truce which Ronan would make, Sweeney would break, for he used to slay a man before the hour fixed for combat each day, and another each evening when the combat ceased.
There are no pacts between lions and men.
Thus, Sweeney's madness seems to be a medieval tale of post-traumatic stress disorder, beginning first with not being able to stop the violence, and then not being able to start again. Interestingly, the Iraq conflict did come out with its own version of this particular type of madness.
You're a wild man, you know that? Huh?
Yes,
He's
sir.
a wild man. You know that?
But Howl, despite its wonderfulness, ain't there yet. The next stage of this story could very well be mixing these two fundamental parts and creating a wizard who has lost both his heart and his mind due to both a curse and shell shock. Or has it already been written by Robert Jordan? Let me know down in the comments. To conclude, I just love it when stories and myth come full circle onto each other.
History became legend. Legend became myth.
So if you like dissecting tales like this, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel, and leave a comment letting me know your thoughts down below. Thanks! Bye!